Warning, this episode contains references to suicide and other topics that some may find triggering. If you or someone you know is struggling, visit findahelpline.com for resources in your region.
What is the missing piece? And I can finally say it's recognising and rewarding workers when they do the right thing. As Charlie Munger said, if you want certain behaviours, you need to recognise and reward them, and you need to do it quick.
Australia has one of the most comprehensive workplace health and safety programs, yet 70% of workers are disengaged, and mental health inquiries are up 97%. The question we want to ask today, is there a missing link between company policies aimed at addressing wellness and mental wellness and the human psychology of adopting those policies? That's the conversation we're going to have today. Welcome to The Power of Construction. I'm Sasha Reed.
And I'm Andy Rampton.
Andy Rampton, a new person, new voice.
A new voice
new
on the
face
podcast.
for the podcast.
With a funny accent.
Yes, so I do want to say there's two of us today with funny accents, American and originally Brit. How long have you been in Sydney or Australia now?
I've been in Australia 11 years now.
And still haven't lost the accent.
Well, a little bit. People tell me I sound a bit funny when I go home, but but I think still largely British comes through.
Oh, okay. Very, very good. Well, I wanted to call that out because we actually have an Aussie here in the room with us.
Certainly do.
There's the accent. And we're going to give you a chance to introduce yourself in 1 minute, Garry. But I want to start, Andy, with you because this is your first time joining me on the podcast.
It is, yeah.
Andy is the senior director of, and your role is?
Industry transformation
yes.
for the APAC region for Procore.
Excellent, excellent. Now, Andy's background, I want to make sure I give some ample time for this because you've been at Procore for how many months now?
5 now.
5 months?
Yes.
Yep, new addition to the team. But you're not a stranger to the industry. You've had a long history working on transforming the business practices, construction practices for Lend-Lease. You also led the development of research and manufacturing facilities for one of UK's largest defense contractors. And you played a key role in reshaping both school and hospital delivery under the UK's PFI PPP model. You're going to let those TLAs slide. I'm not going to ask you to explain those.
Yeah.
And you also contributed to the vision and development of NEOM's The Line project in Saudi Arabia. Tell us, what is it about your past experience that made you want to join and do this role at Procore?
I think one of the values of construction and the property industry more generally is that it gives you so many opportunities to do so many different things. Mm-hmm. And I always rebelled against those people that say you've got to plan your career and you've got to own every step. And I just took advantage of whatever opportunity came my way. And I managed to compile a set of very different experiences that seemed to be unique overall. And you're also approaching that time of life now where you start to think about legacy and you start to think about giving back. And one of my passions over the last 10 or 15 years has been this thing that we call the digital transformation of construction. And I've observed in many different geographies that we've never quite got to grips with it. And so combine those things, Procore's given me an excellent opportunity to help the industry transform, working on the industry rather than working from within the industry. And it's a very exciting time for construction. I think we're gonna explore one of the angles of that today. But yeah, it's a pleasure to be here.
Excellent. Well, we're very happy to have you. Unfortunately, Chris Langiza was not able to join us on this, my normal co-host on the podcast. But we are here in Sydney and we're having this conversation around this missing link. And I would love for you to introduce the guests that you've brought here with us today.
Of course, Garry Mansfield.
Thank you.
Welcome, Garry. Gary's the former head of workplace safety at Richard Crooks Constructions. And more recently, he's the co-founder of Scratchie. We're going to hear more about Scratchie today, a really interesting organization that is changing the way that we view health and safety and mental health and worker welfare in the construction industry, focusing more on positive reinforcement of behaviors and attitudes. And within that, Garry takes a very human-centered approach to safety culture, which introduces a theme that I've been really interested in for a while now. It's the behavioral science. It's the psychology of the worker rather than the physical health and safety. Garry's also co-host of the Recognition Factor podcast. He lives on a farm, I understand.
Yeah, I try to live there as much as I can.
Yeah, and you play music. What type?
Oh, you've got me today. Yeah. Been playing music all my life, musical family. So
Instruments?
I'll play lots of them.
Okay, well, that's all right.
Music on the farm.
Music on the farm.
Yeah, I have a little studio at the farm, which I'm really, really happy to have.
You're very used to this environment.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Welcome, Garry.
Thank you.
Great for to
Thank
be
you
here.
so much.
So I want to start this conversation really looking at why this conversation now. This is actually going to air in October and during mental health awareness and health and safety awareness. And so we really wanted to add to the discussion that's already going on in the industry, but maybe have a little bit of a different conversation. Andy, would you lead us through maybe why this conversation? Why now?
Look, it's really important. We've seen over the last 20 years that the construction industry has made significant strides in terms of physical health and safety, and we've seen those accident rates declining. More recently, we've hit a bit of a plateau, and I think we're understanding as an industry that there's different factors at play now rather than just physical health and safety. What we're seeing across the industry, mental health claims up 97%. Only 1% to 2% of construction workers use mental health resources, even though we're getting better at providing them. We're changing the way we view health and safety on site. We're retiring some of the old axioms, lost time incident frequency rates, and those type of indicators are being retired in favor of indicators that are related to worker motivation, behavior, and psychology, as we've discussed. So we've spent a lot of time and energy and money on changing the way we view health and safety on site, but the numbers haven't significantly shifted in that time. I think that's fair to say, Garry. So what's your take on this shift away from the traditional methods and measures to a greater focus on the psychological aspects of worker safety?
That's a great question. It's a wicked problem. The measures that the industry has been using for a long time. I think the discourse with a lot of the measures that have been in safety has been around a long time. That safety professionals will somewhat raise an eyebrow when numbers are quoted around the boardroom table, because where there's the ability to manipulate numbers, someone will manipulate numbers. But more importantly, I mean, to your point around the construction industry really ramping up the tools that are available and technology that's available, now really making some question marks around the indicators that we use. Lost time, you mentioned lost time injury rates. They've been a waste of time. And they've really, they really are a measure of how good your injury management is.
That's very interesting, actually. That's an interesting nuance.
Yeah.
Why do you think that is?
Well, if you've got good injury management, you can have 0 LTIs, right? You can run someone away in an ambulance and say, oh, yeah, that person's back at work. They're working from home. We've done it all. We've done everything we can do to hide it being somebody actually injured at work and that needs to recover. Insurance companies play a big part of that. When you talk to insurance companies and they use an LTI as a measurement and they say, dear Mr. Construction Company, how did you go this year? That's a big one. That's a really big one. But we also find that a lot of the clients in the construction sector measure performance of the building company on these indicators, and they're lag indicators. We know they're lag indicators, and there's nothing we can do about them. And there is finally a movement to say, can we look at some lead indicators?
Yep.
And let's get a little smarter. Now we have the technology to look at our lead indicators and use some indicators that are actually going to add value that we can learn from.
And that's, you had a thought.
I had a thought. Yeah,
Go
I
ahead.
was going to say we lead indicators is something we've aspired to for quite a while now in construction. What do you think? I always use the phrase timing is everything. Why is now the right time, both from a significance point of view, but also from a point of view of the industry now being ready to adopt a different approach to this kind of thing?
I think the tools with lead indicators are finally here.
Mm.
I think they haven't been here for a long time. They would say, "Hey Gary, what are the lead indicators in safety in our business today?" And I'd say, "Oh, we've done so many toolbox meetings, we've had so many safety." So is everybody else.
Mm-hmm.
And how's that impacting the performance of safety in the business? I don't know. I don't know. I can't measure that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas the lead indicators that we have now with technology can be far more sophisticated. We can have a much deeper lens to look through and try and look at some of the risks that we have on a particular project, perhaps, and foresee that, other than having the age-old risk assessment on a piece of paper that sits on the shelf that we say that we monitor constantly.
No, I think this goes to the heart of the question that I asked at the beginning, which was, I don't want to diminish the progress that construction has made. Our health and safety programs have evolved and have addressed a lot of the injuries on job sites in ways that we hadn't in the past. And policies are starting to evolve. I've had a chance to travel from the US here to Sydney to London in the UK, and I'm seeing those policies evolve to include more of a holistic understanding of humans. So I think that what we're seeing is the policies have done a bit of their work, but there's this last mile factor that hasn't. That I feel like that's where we are now. We're really in that last mile. So celebrate the fact that we've had impact. Is it perfect? Absolutely not. Can it be fudged? Absolutely it can. But in that last mile, what's going to get us there? And so you talk about lagging indicators and early indicators, and I'm thinking about, is it the fact that technology is now evolved to tap into more of the behavioral sciences and into more of the human behavior or psychology of the way us as individuals work? What is technology uncovering for you to measure as a leading indicator?
We can, for the first time with technology in the field, right at the coalface, standing next to a worker, I identify lead indicators, good performance, and recognize that and reward it with a worker, right? And that data starts to become very valuable when you're doing this day in, day out in an organization. You can see, what areas are we rewarding for? What areas are we not rewarding for?
Yeah.
Right? Do we need to look modifying our training program, or do we need to provide more resource, or is it what is it? What can we do to really analyze our lead indicators?
And so as you look at those leading indicators, do you have any stories or any practical application you can share about how the technology actually surfaced something that wasn't being looked at, but now is being seen as one of those leading indicators?
So a great example is, I was on a construction site. I walked out, there were just EWPs everywhere. We're putting the roof on this building.
EWP,
I promise no
acronyms.
Elevated work platform. So these guys are right up high in the sky, putting a roof on a building. And the safety professional on the job said to me, "Gary, I challenge you to go around and find anyone that hasn't done a pre-start on their piece of plant." And I said, "Okay, let's walk around." And all of a sudden they started all coming down. And I'm like, "Why are they all coming down?" And they said, "Oh, look, they're expecting to get recognized and rewarded now." And it was really, really pleasing to see that the first person we walked up to pulled out the logbook and said, "Here it is. Look, I filled it out this morning." And I was like, so I looked at the safety guy and I said, "Is this adding value to your business? Is this really adding value at the coalface?" And his reply was, "I don't spend all day trying to manage the fundamentals of safety anymore." The fundamentals that we talk about for PPE and exclusion zones and traffic management and the like are given now because they get recognised and rewarded. And these workers were coming down saying, "Hey, Mr. Gary, come and recognise me." And it was really powerful because what they are used to is the stick coming out.
Yes.
And we say, have you done X, Y, or Z? Belt with the stick, right? And, providing the carrot and the balance has proven really efficient on that project. And they're putting a roof on a building, right? That's work at height. It's our biggest killer in construction is work at height.
You've mentioned that word reward a few times now. And, we said in the intro that, more of an understanding of the worker psychology is needed to move the dial further. How does reward manifest itself through these programs and the work that you're doing? What is a reward for a construction worker that does something good around mental health or health and safety?
Yeah. Well, what we've typically thought about reward in construction, we've always thought it's walking past saying, oh, good job, mate. Good job. Keep it up. Great work. It takes a little more than that, because by the second or third time, that starts to wear a little dry. And we all thrive for it. Babies cry for it, right? Yeah. We're looking for recognition. And if there's a reward associated with it, you get repeat behavior. I mean, to quote Charlie Munger, show me the incentive and I'll show you the behavior.
Yeah.
Right. And we've started to learn, and companies have done this. Companies have done in the past, we give away a holiday at the end of the month, or there's the golden hard hat. I've done it. We've tried it. The vouchers, come to the office and we'll give you a voucher because you were super good.
Yeah. I love the vouchers.
It works to a degree. What it tells me is the organisation, A, knows that you must incentivise and reward people, right? But the missing part is the technology piece that we're talking about here, is to say it needs to be instant gratification.
Yes.
Think Pavlov's theory.
Yes.
And then what we do with that recognition piece and that release of, dopamine, right? We're the dopamine dealers here at Scratchie. Or microdosing dopamine. But what it allows us to do is that worker for the first time says, oh, you didn't whip out the stick, Mr. Safety Person, and belt me with the stick and then try and become friends again with me to get me to comply, which is one of my pet hate words, is comply in this brutalist sort of regime, is to say, no, we actually recognize you've done something great, and now let's have a conversation.
Yes.
Let's have the conversation where everybody feels empowered.
Yes.
And they have respect.
And frankly, you've earned their attention.
You've earned their attention because, I've done it for 20 years where I walk around and they go, here comes that guy with that clipboard that thinks he knows everything. And I'm going to be doing something wrong. I guarantee he will find something. He never walks up and says, I love how you've got this area spotlessly tidy. I hope you've got your phone in your pocket because you're in for a reward here.
Yeah.
And that data then becomes really valuable to us.
So you were doing it the old way for 20 years, as you just said. What was your realization? What was the event that made you realize there has to be a different way, and what motivated you to pursue that way?
I think the light bulb for me was in some of the organisations I've worked in, I've had unlimited budgets and resources. I've had massive safety teams, sophisticated systems, and the real intent to do the right thing in safety performance. Yet, we were having the same problems as our competitors. I've been on sites where there's been suicide, murder, and fatalities from other incidents. And I just said, there's the piece missing. What is the missing piece? And I can finally say it's recognising and rewarding workers when they do the right thing. As Charlie Munger said, if you want certain behaviours, you need to recognise and reward them, and you need to do it quick.
And there's something interesting here. So in the Future State of Construction report that Procore recently published, we surveyed business leaders and individuals in the construction industry across the globe. And from that, we have some findings. And some of those, I think, will be relevant to the conversation we're having. 40% of those that we surveyed said that they would like to see more prioritization of safety and well-being within construction. And 47% said they would like to see tech used to improve efficiency and safety. When you're talking about the overuse of the stick and carrot in how our policies have been implemented, even to your point, some of our reward systems and the difference of understanding human psychology and the immediacy of giving somebody a reward. You all have been in the field, right?
Mm-hmm.
It is the most competitive place you'd ever want to be. And some would say a bit toxic in its competitivity and its hazing and other things. We have missed an opportunity in a moment for there to be healthy, constructive competition amongst workers in these immediacy of rewards. And I think that's something that comes back to influencing the culture. Before we started filming, you were telling us, and you made a great statement, I'd love for you to tell again, around what will or will not help your culture. Remember the statement you made?
Oh, yeah. Like, I mean, a lot of the feedback that I get from building companies is, we've invested all this money in all these areas, Garry. Where's the missing piece that you see? And I'll quite often point out to them, your training program is fantastic, all right? However, the things that you're telling me that you're having problems with are attitude problems. It's not lack of knowledge. I mean, I honestly believe that most workers will have a fair go at providing safe, a safe work environment for themselves and their mates, right? And won't deliberately put anyone at risk, right? The piece that we need to work on is those that are missing the attitude, right? Just need to dial up their attitude when it comes to safety and to align somewhat to an organization's goals, right? James Kell, my co-founder at Scratchie, he says it best. He says, subcontractors parachute into a project. And they quite often parachute into a project because they were the right price, in the right time, in the right location. Will they buy into your values of your organization? No. They never signed up to buy into your values and your culture and your vision. What they've come in to do is work hard, get paid, and go home, and hopefully not get injured in the process. So any attitudinal, any area that we can improve their attitudes is the piece we need to grasp.
Yeah.
Right? Because that's going to have a tangible impact on safety across that project.
And is that what you're finding? Are you finding all those workers stepping down, all those workers coming down to talk to you? Is this almost like a gamification?
Oh, it is totally gamified. It's totally gamified. There are leaderboards and scoreboards, and there's a lot of punches going around, friendly banter.
Yeah.
In Australia, we've really seen the banter, and you'd remember this, particularly in Australia, the banter in construction's just diminished. And that was the reason I got into construction back in the day, because I just thought it was a great place to go and have that, friendly banter and camaraderie and the like. It's interesting. But 96% of workers that we've surveyed prefer to work on a Scratchie project. That tells me 96% of workers are putting their hand up to say, just recognize when we do the right thing occasionally, and we'll be on your team. We'll definitely be on your team.
You talk about the friendly competition there.
Yeah.
It's construction is a competitive industry, as Sasha said. It's also quite combative. Is there a risk that the friendly competition overspills into something a bit more destructive? Is there any experience from your perspective that says it has the threat of becoming something a bit more than friendly?
No, not at all. It's never come up, to be brutally honest. The friendly camaraderie, in fact, a new feature of our app is to allow workers to group their rewards together.
Yeah.
Because they were doing that anyway. They were sort of saying, look, as a group, if we combine our rewards, we could go for lunch or whatever, right? Like that. But we're talking small awards that are regular. That's the key. They need to be regular rewards. And this is why the monthly safety person doesn't work. Right? You need regular rewards on the coalface when you see the behaviour that you want to see repeated.
I love that because, a really strong Australian word that you don't hear anywhere else in the world is mateship.
Yeah.
And for me, as a Brit who came across to Australia 11 years ago, I was on the receiving end of some of that banter, which was a great introduction to the country and as well as the industry. But I think what strikes you very strongly is that a good construction site is one where you form those bonds and those relationships that does transition into mateship.
Totally.
And so what you're seeing there is that gamification, the reward system is promoting mateship on construction sites and getting that banter back into
it. Is. I can actually feel it when, I think most construction people can feel it from the minute you get out of the car park, on a construction site and you think, oh, I'm about to enter this site. You can, it's like you can smell it, and then the first person you walk past says, "G'day, mate, how you going?" And you go, oh, okay, this could be a good project. Yeah. And then the next person says, "G'day, mate, how you going?" And you're like, okay, there's a good vibe here. And then you can walk in and talk to the project and they're like, and I'll ask them, how's the program running? And they're like, this is awesome. I want it on my next job, et cetera, et cetera.
That's fascinating. So, we always used to say that the first indication of a healthy and safe workplace was how well the front gate was organized.
Yeah.
Clean and tidy.
Yeah.
And now I love the fact that it might be someone saying, "Good day, how are you?"
Absolutely. Absolutely. And I genuinely believe too that if somebody recognizes you and points you out in the workplace for doing something good in real time, it might be enough for you to drive home that day and say, you know what, I feel a lot better today. I didn't feel really well when I got to work this morning and I had, God forbid, some awful thoughts, right? And that conversation that I spoke about, it's not about it. Actually, believe it or not, the reward isn't the piece. The reward isn't the piece. It's the recognition.
Yes.
And it's the conversation saying, "So Gary, how was your day? It seems like you've got things under control. Is there anything we can do?" It's called consultation. In safety, the buzzword is called consultation. But safety professionals are just really good at telling, walking up saying, "You need to do this." Blah, blah, blah. So that's. Yeah.
How does this then augment the role of the safety leader? Because one of the things that you had said earlier was what has been dumped on the safety leader, and I use that word literally. The pandemic came, and then they had to be pandemic experts, and then they left the pandemic, and now we're raising awareness around the mental health crisis that construction is experiencing, and now all of a sudden there's this additional ask. What is it that the technology is providing that is either augmenting or lessening some of that burden, allowing that safety leader to be more effective?
I think safety professionals generally, very generally here, still have that stick in their back pocket, and they've been brought up with that stick. They've got a checklist. Right. And they use words like non-conformance and comply and zero harm and back charge and all these negative words. Right. Yeah. So you put a tool in their pocket, and it's another tool that says, when you spot the right thing, do the right thing. Right. Yes. Reward and recognize and have a conversation. And then the more that safety professional or foreman or whoever it is, even better, senior leadership, when they walk around a site and call something good out, I mean, you can hear it a block away, right? Calling out those good things, it starts to teach you that, I don't have to be brutal every time I have a conversation.
Yep.
And the balance, we don't say take the stick away, but it's a really good balance to have something in your pocket to call it out, recognize good performance, capture that data. The data is extremely important because we can dive deep on that data and really have a look at it, particularly if it's a long-term project. We can do, surveys up front to gain an understanding of the culture in the place, measure it as progressively as we move along, tweak, and with the risk hat back on, you can really have a look at the areas of the project that you want to ramp up, and reward. Like if you're rewarding the things that keep you awake at night, all of a sudden you'll sleep better. Trust me.
You mentioned a term there that I think we've got to pick up on: zero harm.
Yeah.
And I've had 35 years in the construction industry, and it's very difficult when you're the leader in a project team to set a target that is anything other than zero. But understanding we're all humans, I think there's a subliminal recognition at least that you're never going to get there. I know you have a specific view around the term zero anything. Explain to us what your line of thought is around setting targets that are so absolute in that way.
I think I read this perhaps But somebody once said, if you want to really know about zero harm, just go and ask the worker. And we're talking the worker that's the guy or girl that's got a hard hat or a hairnet on. Go and ask them about zero harm. Step out of your ivory tower and go and ask the worker, what do you think of this zero harm goal that we have? Or towards zero? Or, I don't know, they keep making up these great words because they know that, the posters with zero harm do absolutely nothing. And I will argue it causes more damage.
How
right?
so?
Because the worker will tell you, oh, Gary, well, in fact, when I was a safety professional, they'd tell me, oh, yeah, it's great. We've had no injuries, Gary. You can go away now, right? But when you really talk to that worker and that worker says, did you know that somebody broke their finger yesterday? And you go, no, we didn't hear about that. So it's a load of rubbish. However, the intent was really sound. I mean, we can't sit around a table and say that we want so many accidents. But I think I think businesses are maturing now. And some of the early adopters of that zero language are starting to really squirm because they know that it's so outdated. It's like putting up a billboard out the front of your site saying we've had, think of Deepwater Horizon, right? Zero LTIs, great. And the LTI measure is a measure of your injury management. It's not your safety performance. So yeah, that's my take on zero. I think with a positive spin is if that word said care, if it was something about care, I think the worker would adopt that far better than this absolute that anything above zero is failure.
Yeah. Now, Andy, you, spending many years leading projects, really had to adhere to that methodology and the language.
Oh, you drank the Kool-Aid. You drunk it. We
I
all
think-
drunk it.
I think it's very difficult being the leader or a senior figure in a project team to say that you can tolerate any level that is above zero. And I absolutely take Gary's point of view. The reality is that it's more than likely never going to get to zero. But when you're in that position, standing up and saying that as a leadership figure is a very difficult thing to do. And I appreciate your point about drinking the Kool-Aid, but the reality is it's hard to say anything.
It really, really is. And as as a safety professional back in the day, you were just out there. If you said, I don't think we can achieve zero, you were just probably not getting hired, right? Times are changing. People, and this is, more around lead indicators. Let's look at lead indicators. Let's throw that lag indicator because there's nothing we can do with that lag indicator. And I don't care who the organization is. You see a broken finger, what are you going to do about it? Other than, quite often it creates a culture of blame, right? Because we look for someone to blame because all of a sudden someone's got to go to the ivory tower and explain that. So,
yeah. I want to just about to wrap up here, but before we do, and Andy has 5 questions, rapid fire questions he's going to ask you here shortly before he kind of asks you to speculate about the future. But I want to quickly touch on this because one of the things that's struck me in the conversation that we've had is how quickly you see a net positive impact to behavior in the field with the rewards. And there are a ton of emerging technologies now that are starting to come to market in the construction space specifically that are all about really understanding human psychology and this reward system and the dopamine dealer, microdosing. I absolutely love that. And so one of the things we're looking at is all these different technologies that are coming that are, what I'm assessing from each of them is they're giving visibility to the frontline worker by the leadership in the office in ways that have never happened before. There's something magical that occurs when somebody feels seen and recognized. And you talked about this concept of self-determination theory. And how does that theory play into why some of these technologies may be actually getting net positive results faster than our policies have?
Yeah. So self-determination theory was DC and Ryan, 2 godfathers of psychology. And it's it's a rabbit hole if you go down there.
A good one.
And it sounds really, really simple. Like if I was to explain it in bullet point to you, you'd go, okay, what's so clever about it? But it is, you can dive very, very deep. Autonomy, competence, and relatedness are the three key theories of what DC and Ryan have come up with. And when you dive deep into that and you understand what it is that people genuinely are looking for from birth all the way to death, in the workplace, at home, on the battlefield, wherever it is, it all applies to DC and Ryan's theory. And we're really, really excited with technology being able to implement that in the workplace for the first time.
Do you see that being the missing link?
I don't think it's the silver bullet. Like I'd be absolutely drawing a long one there. But what I can tell you is, and we're really fortunate. We've got a university in Newcastle in Australia here that's doing a deep dive study on incentives and motivation, and it's going to be really exciting to see what's coming out. They're doing a fantastic job on this study, thanks to Tanvi.
We'd love to get a copy of that. I'm curious if that's going to further define what metric we should be measuring. If zero harm is aspirational, but potentially the unintended consequences is it just continues the blame game and hiding.
Totally.
Is this theory and the way that technology is being applied potentially giving us a net new metric to measure?
Oh, it is, totally. It's giving us the best lead indicators, the richest lead indicators that as a safety perf, if I put that hat back on, I'd say, give it to me, because I'm doing the same as my competitor up the road. We do it well. We've invested in it. Give me a suite of lead indicators to say, I've had so many workers rewarded for safe work at height on my project this month, right? Who are the best performing contractors? Who are the best performing individuals? How does that stack up against the program? Are we in excavation or are we in fit out? Where are the risks in each element of that build, and are we on the right path? It's that rich lead indicator is there.
Exciting.
Yeah.
I hope, because I think one of the things that exacerbates some of these challenges that we experience at construction is the awareness and the education of the project owner and how much they should actually take on to help construction solve our problems, the productivity challenges. We as an industry have to care for our own first. And I think this is one of the ways that we can do that. But I'm hopeful that some of these leading indicators that you're speaking of can become more common language with owners, so they become better aware of what a leading indicator looks like in order to guarantee the outcomes they want. And that may change how they contract and align incentives for those on the project.
Yeah. I think we're seeing that. There's certainly some companies that we're involved with that their clients have actually said, we love this idea, right? So they'll invest in it as well. My concern is with governments. Governments are just lagging with that whole sort of drive towards innovation.
Yeah.
And we know why. And they're struggling to grasp with the concept of lead indicators and what that might look like. But the sophisticated clients and some of the big global names are right on the front foot with, wow, where's this been?
Yeah, well, I'm an optimist, so I started to see some of this really come to fruition. So I hope that the conversation we had today really starts to open roads and doors for that research and these findings to find their way into government. Andy, I'll let you take the end here. I know you want to ask a question, kind of like futurescaping predictions.
Should Andy?
Yeah, so
be kind to me.
Look, we've got some rapid questions that we haven't prepped you for, and I'm just looking at these. So I think some of them are really unkind. So we're really putting you on the spot here, Garry. So first off, an easy one. What book would you most recommend?
A book for a safety professional, if they haven't read it, would be Paper Safe by Greg Smith, an Australian fella.
Excellent.
It's life-changing.
Excellent. What is your go-to information source if you want to gain a different perspective on something?
Different perspective. Grok.
Grok, love it, love it. If you could give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
I think the age-old double down on the things you're really good at. And I was very much I erred on the side of empathy in my career in safety, where a lot of my peers weren't. So I should have perhaps doubled down on being good at that and my emotional intelligence as opposed to being, compliance.
If you're asking me that question, that's a whole other podcast. But what's one trend or innovation that you think will shape the future of construction?
I think robots. I think they're way closer than we see. I mean, they're already here. We know that, and they're already in the construction sector. But I've been talking to some people here in Australia that are deep into the investment side of what they can be doing on construction. And I think they'll work really, really well with us. And it might be another podcast.
I was about to say, I think that leads us to a nice trail of a potential podcast number 2. Garry, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate you sitting down with us. Andy, it was lovely to sit down with you and have a conversation with you.
It was good fun, a good conversation, good guests, good company. Thank you.
Good, excellent. And
thank you, Andy.
Thank you all for joining us today. If you'd like, we encourage you to download Procore's Future State of Construction Report, where you can pull out some of these insights and really enhance some of the conversations that you're having within your organization. If what we talked about here today resonated with you, please like, subscribe, and share. And we'll keep bringing you the stories of business leaders in construction harnessing the power of construction. Thank you.